Left, right.
Top left.
Oh my god. So top left, right, Thomas?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Is that what you say?
Left, right.
Okay, go back, man.
I
Right
got
buff.
New buff, new buff. Someone, you have to get.
How's it going, Guardians? We talked about weapons last video, and I want to talk about the armor sets now. Armor sets are a new thing in the game. We don't have any before now, so this is all new stuff. We got 8 sets to talk about for this season. There is one that's going to be from Solstice, so it's not in the collections yet, so I'll show you the API role in the compendium, because people have already figured out what it is in the compendium. So we'll briefly talk about that, and then we're going to talk about all the ones that you can see in-game that you can get now. The Solstice armor is the lustrous armor. It has a 2-piece and a 4-piece, like all the sets will have. And the 2-piece is pretty interesting. It gives you reload speed, flinch, and handling after you receive healing on any solar weapon. So a bit of a PvP perk, it feels like. Unless you're doing something with restoration and you really need reload speed on your solar weapon, like maybe on Sunshot or some other exotic solar weapon, this would be pretty useful if you're able to keep healing up. And if restoration counts. We're not too sure how that's going to test out, but that's something to keep an eye on. I think the 4 set piece bonus is actually very good, though. Now, this is Cauterize, where after getting 3 solar kills within a certain amount of time, you will get healing. So basically get kills to get cure. Now, I don't know if it's going to be the Solar 3.0 verb cure, or if it'll just be healing like the Bushido set, but odds are it'll probably just be healing. It does require you to build into solar, but having an entire set dedicated to solar weapons and solar abilities seems pretty cool. Like, this is the kind of thing that I thought we would see a little bit more of. So going forward, I'd like to see more of this with, Arc and Strand and stuff like that. But for a event set, this seems pretty good. If you're able to get that 4-piece going and it is a substantial amount of healing, then this might be something that's good to take into endgame just for that healing alone. And then if you're using a solar weapon, Sunshot, things like that, reload speed never hurts. And then in PvP, you might see a benefit for the 2-piece in PvP with some of the other 2-set bonuses. And one of the things that you want to think about when you're using these sets is if the 2-piece is very good, you can combine the 2-piece with another 2-piece of a different set, right? You don't have to go fully into the 4-piece. So this healing to get bonus flinch resist and handling with solar weapons could be useful in Crucible, and depending on what we see going into the other armor sets, you might see a 2-piece that might also work with that. Gets you some really good benefits in Crucible. So starting us off with the in-game ones, I want to talk about the Aeon Renewal set. This is the Kepler Destination. So for anyone who has played through the campaign, played the DLC, you will probably have gotten a ton of these helmets. You'll have gotten the drops all the time. And this is a version of the armor. There is a Mystic set that we're going to talk about later on, as well as this original version. This one focuses on rocket and grenade launcher kills. This does include things like rocket sidearms, rocket pulse rifles, as well as micro missiles and the destination missile weapon origin trait. Those will all work with this effect. So for the 2-set piece, you will get a speed booster effect whenever you get a final blow with rocket or grenade launchers. So you'll be able to have that kind of amplified effect, which should speed up your traversal, or if you're moving between combat scenarios, it'll give you that extra burst of speed and some extra mischance and things like that. Whatever speed booster normally gives you, you have some DR and things like that. So it's decent. It's not like amazing. You can build into rocket and grenade launcher, right? You can build into using forbearance or using a rocket sidearm and have high weapon stat to keep your ammo up. So it's not like a terrible thing to proc, but speed booster alone isn't necessarily the best thing. But the 4-piece bonus is that once per activation of this bonus, getting a rocket or GL kill, your force converter can be activated while being suspended or being slowed or while your critical health, which basically just gives you the speed booster immediately. I don't know exactly if that breaks you out of suspend. I haven't really been able to test this because it's very hard to get this active and then bait somebody into suspending me to see if it's working because I don't have the force converter active. I don't know. It's a weird one to test. It sounds like it could be interesting as a get out of jail free card, but even then I don't know if it really works like that, because it sounds like if you are suspended you'll get the benefit and then you have to wait until you're not suspended for it to work. I don't know. Speed boost is a good effect. I don't think an armor set dedicated to getting speed boost and using rockets and GLs is exactly what you want. Now that we're talking about that, let's talk about the mythic set. The mythic set is the Aeon Adapter Helm, which is a very similar kind of setup to the Aeon Renewal. This is also based on getting rocket and grenade launcher kills. However, instead of giving you speed booster, this one gives you DR for AoE damage. So after getting a kill with a rocket or a grenade launcher, you get 15 seconds of explosive damage resist. Now this is a little bit stronger than a concussive dampener, so you'll have 20% reduced damage from enemy rocket and GLs, and you'll have 60% reduced damage from any of your own explosives. So this will make it basically give you danger close on any weapon that does self-damage, and a free concussive dampener on top for 15 seconds after one kill with a rocket or GL. And this includes the same weapons, the Origin trait, and the Neomuna weapons, regular GLs, exotic primaries. Any of that stuff will all proc this for 15 seconds. That's actually a pretty strong effect. I think compared to Speed Booster, getting a straight up damage resistance is very, very strong. The 4-piece I think is also way better, far more reliable to actually get to proc. Compared to getting the critical health or being suspended or being slowed, giving you Speed Booster, instead, once per activation of Force Absorption, you will get a flashbang basically if anybody melees you. Now it is once per activation and it should refresh when you get a new stack of Force Absorption. And you're not going to be trying to get meleeed, right? But if you are in a situation where you have this equipped and you are just in close range, using rockets, using GLs, using Forb, and then something melees you, you'll get to flashbang everything. And that's a very strong safety net. There's very few things that can't be flashed. We're talking champions, we're talking mini bosses and bosses. But anything that's like an orange bar or less is going to get flashbanged. Any Thrall, even Knights, Wraiths would get flashbanged. That's all pretty solid effect. I think, I don't know if we have an exact number on the AoE on this, but if it's anything like the kinetic shockwave you get from the Techsec set, this is probably like 8 to 10 meters, which is very long range. And for a flashbang, that'll get you plenty of time to get another rocket kill to reproc this. I think this set is way better than the regular Aeon set. This is actually something you might consider using if you're focusing on rockets and GLs in some way. So I mentioned the Techsec set, so let's go ahead and talk about Techsec real quick. This is from the Portal. This is your Portal gear. You will not get this in Pinnacle. Pinnacle is the Bushido set, but if you are doing Fire Team or Solo Ops, you will get Techsec armor. The Techsec armor, I think, has one of the strongest, most consistent traits that you can get on an armor set. The 2-piece set gives you Wrecker, which lets your kinetic weapons do increased damage to shields, overshields, vehicles, and constructs. This is triple damage for any kinetic damage that you get that you shoot into a shield. Normally, kinetic weapons, their main weakness is that they cannot deal with shields. Anybody who uses Outbreak or Mountaintop or any other kinetic weapon will know that you don't punch through shields nearly as effectively as an elemental weapon, or as, when you match elements even. This effect, being triple damage, makes up for that, and then also makes it better than any other element. If you match the element, it's probably still better to match the element than to use Wrecker, but Wrecker will give you the second best. That alone is a very, very strong effect and is equivalent to like what Microcosm does for itself when you tear through shields, but this will also stack with Microcosm if you want to make Microcosm a monster. Once we get into master content and you guys are running match game more often, Wrecker might become even more important when you aren't sure what shields you're going to be running into, or if you just want to ignore them and get through as fast as possible. Another benefit is this also works on barrier shields. So if you're fighting barrier champions and you're going to use a kinetic weapon, you can use Wrecker to break their shield even faster. Now, the main benefit of breaking their shield with kinetic damage is obviously that you get to use your kinetic and not have to switch around to your other weapons to break shields or rely on those. But if you are doing the 4-piece set, you get concussive rounds, which I have been using, and this thing feels awesome. So when you break a shield or you kill a powerful enemy, which is like a major or higher, with a kinetic weapon, you get a huge AoE shockwave. We're talking 10 meters, which is absolutely gigantic in this game, which does damage, does a very good chunk of damage, and it flashbangs any enemies hit by it. So you're getting a flashbang effect on your kinetic weapons just for killing enemies and breaking shields with it, which this thing now makes it very good at doing. So this is no cooldown. If you kill like an enemy and it flashbangs an enemy nearby, you can immediately go and kill that enemy with another like single shot, and that will also proc it. So you can get a lot of really good chain damage if there's enemies nearby each other who all have shields. This will not proc with kinetic tremors. If kinetic tremors breaks a shield, concussive rounds will not go off. I think that's a little bit of an oversight, and that should probably be changed. But just so you're aware, if you are using a K-Tremor weapon, you'll want to break the shield with your actual bullets instead of the K-Tremor effect. This might be one of the most powerful effects that we have in the game, because kinetic weapons are kind of lacking in flexibility. This has always been their thing, where they do extra damage to unshielded targets as long as it's not a boss now, but they don't really do well against shields, which every other weapon in the game does do good against. They do have the minor benefit against health bars, but then you're not building into your subclass 3.0. You're missing out on all those effects or extra benefits. They can't work with honing. So having Techsec come in and give kinetics a way to deal with shields, giving them a flashbang effect, all things that they wouldn't normally have, actually really increases the stock of any kinetic weapon that you want to be using. So if you're thinking about using Huckleberry or Outbreak or Kvostov, these are an amazing pickup that will increase your viability with those weapons just like tenfold. All right, now for our other PvE set, if you are doing pinnacle activities, you'll be getting the Bushido set. Now this set is focused on getting kills with reloaded weapons and getting DR. It's mostly focused on bows, I would say, and then shotguns is probably your second best because you are able to reload one round at a time. And then you do have swords on here in the 4-piece bonus, but the 4-piece bonus is sword related, but the first perk is only with freshly drawn or reloaded weapons, so it's a bit harder to keep that up unless you're using a playstyle where you're switching to your sword to get a kill and then switching off of the sword constantly. So it's not exactly my favorite use case for that. You can go ahead and focus on all three and you'll probably do fine. But I think the main perk to think about is the 2-piece on this set, which is getting a final blow with a freshly drawn or reloaded weapon heals you. This is not as much as a cure. It's about 30 HP, which is less than half of a full like health recuperation thing going on. So it's a pretty small amount. But if you are able to practice consistently, because if you're using something like a bow, every shot will reload, and that means every kill with a bow would heal you. Apart from the cooldown, it has about a 4-second cooldown, I want to say. It's just pretty long. It doesn't sound long when you're thinking about it. When you are using this feels like a very long cooldown to get 30 HP. And the 4-piece is getting kills with your bow, shotgun, or sword gives you damage resist. This is 10% DR, and then dealing damage with those weapons will extend the duration by another couple seconds. So you can build into this 10% DR pretty effectively. As long as you're using like a bow, you can just keep killing things. Like exotic bows will be very good with this effect. Think like Le Monarch. You will get DR for every kill, and it'll be that 10%. It doesn't stack. So you'll get the 10%, and then dealing damage with it will also extend it. So the Le Monarch damage ticks should also keep this going. The heal on final blow with freshly reloaded weapons is going to feel a bit underwhelming for the most part. However, if you're in a situation where you don't have other healing methods, this is still like very, very strong, getting 30 HP. That's the equivalent of like 2 recuperation mods. So you can build into that, not even counting your health stat or your orbs. Just getting the kill will give you some kind of sustain. And then the damage resist should make that a little more valuable. You know, you're talking about like 33 health with 10% DR, right? So this will help you stay alive. It is a good set. I don't think it's as all applicable as Techsec was, because Techsec kind of just will always be good on kinetics. And this is much more focused on bows being your primary damage source, and then maybe shotguns as backup. The 2 set, if you are feeling that, can work with anything. So you could always take this with a hand cannon. Every time you reload, you get the heal usually, or if you're using a kill clip weapon. PvP, this might actually be decent. 30 HP is very small in PvP, but it can get you out of some 2v1 scenarios. So definitely still something to think about. It's just not as strong as I think it could be in PvE. For PvP, we have the Last Discipline set. This set comes from playing PvP activities in the portal, so you can get this from competitive or just, you know, control whatever the active modifier would be. This set is more focused on primary ammo, mainly because the 2 set bonus makes it so that getting a kill with your primary weapons gets you increased reload speed with your primaries. Kind of similar to the old Origin trait. but there's nothing else needing this to proc except for getting primary ammo kills. So if you are playing Crucible and you're getting a lot of primary kills, this is not a bad set bonus for Crucible. PvE, you can still make use of that. Using anything with heal clip, this will be like a very good bonus for things like that. Or if you're using something that just needs to reload, like Volt Shot or Kill Clip, those make those a little more viable. But the 4-piece set bonus is actually kind of very strong, which is picking up an Orb of Power gives you special ammo progress. Now the progress seems to be 6.5%-ish every orb. So if you're making a ton of orbs, you got attrition orbs going, or you just got a bunch of heavy-handeds and you're playing PvE, this is a good way to build into special ammo, just giving you progress by picking up orbs. I don't think it is as game-changing in PvP. PvP is a little bit harder to make orbs in, but it is a bigger bonus to get that special ammo progress in PvP. However, in PvE, if you want to do a special ammo build, this is a no-brainer, I think. If you're trying to run double special, that'll get you a lot more progress than you'll get with just your special weapons, because they get reduced progress while progressing towards themselves. So definitely something to keep an eye out for if you are going to be using double special. This 4-piece set bonus could actually make up your ammo economy difference. However, you wouldn't be making much on the primary ammo 2-piece bonus, so it's going to be a bit of a trade-off, right? Now, second to last set here, we still have our Trials armor set. This is the Twofold set. This is only available in Trials, so you're going to have to wait for Trials to come back around to go and get this. But this seems to be a pretty interesting combination of primary, like the Crucible set. So this will also be a very good one for Crucible, I think. This gives you picking up an ammo brick will heal you. It's your 2-set bonus. Pretty decent in Crucible, because if you're getting the kills that drop the brick and you pick it up, that is a chunk of HP. We don't know exactly what the numbers are right now, but let's assume it's 20 to 30. Like a recuperation, maybe 2 recuperations. That could give you a way to get a leg up in healing in Crucible. However, in PvE, that's also pretty good. Like if you're running just something that gens a lot of ammo, you're running a Lengthenim, or you got a high ammo gen weapon just as your default, that's just what you happen to have, and you're making a lot of bricks, maybe you just take the 2-piece of this, and that will give you healing on ammo brick pickup, and you can combine that with Bushido so that every time you reload a weapon and get a kill, you get some healing, and then if that's making ammo bricks, you get double healing. Not a bad set bonus, I don't think. So the 4-piece set is getting final blows with your primary weapons give you increased radar resolution, which is basically the echo of dilation, or whatever other weapons you have that have like radar tuner that will just give you better radar pings. It'll like increase the number of segments so you have a better idea of where somebody is. Sure, useful, I guess. However, even in Crucible, I feel like you're better off with the regular Crucible set 4-piece, giving you more special ammo, or just taking 2-pieces. This does not seem very 4-set bonus of you. So, trial set, okay. Decent applications with the 2-set. I think you could find places to work that in. The 4-piece feels a little rough, though. Our final set's going to be the Raid set. This set I have not gotten any pieces of yet, so I haven't been able to test it personally. However, it has been tested by people who have been able to go through and get those grinded out. I think the set itself looks pretty good. I like the effects that we have on this. And this is a set that seems to really be trying to build into the Raid Exotic. If you are wearing spoilers, close your ears now, but the Exotic will deal strand and solar damage. It doesn't have any effects on it for the subclasses. However, this set piece does have that kind of benefit. So it'll look into you being on Prismatic. If you're on Prismatic, this is going to be a very good set. If you're on a solo subclass, you might see a bit of benefit, but it'll benefit more to Prismatic. The 2% bonus here is that picking up an ammo brick will give you a stacking bonus until you die for your weapon swap and stow speeds. So if you're doing a bait and switch rotation, you're doing Envious Arsenal, you're doing all these DPS rotations already, Accretion will give you a faster handling speed for all those weapons that you're swapping through, which is basically tied directly to your DPS in those situations where you're not doing any reloads. Increasing your handling is the most important thing you can do. So being able to stack that up as a 2-set bonus is actually pretty decent. If you're not doing that, I mean, handling's okay. But if you're not doing bait and switch rotations, you're not doing Envious Arsenal, you're not going to see as much benefit from this 2-set bonus. But I think it's important to build into it. At max stacks, it should be about a 0.8 multiplier to your swap speed. So you will get about 20% faster. Now, the 4-piece bonus is actually very, very strong. The 4-set bonus will increase the duration of any strand debuffs you apply to enemies and any solar buffs that apply to you. On Prismatic, this is very, very strong because there's no way to increase these naturally. On the solo subclasses for strand or solar, both of those have ways to increase these durations built in. They do stack. However, they stack less than they would if you were using only one. For example, when we're talking about Radiant, if you're using Ember of Solace, which increases the duration of the effect, you will get a 50% increase to your Radiant duration, so you'll go from 10 to 15. This set, if you're using it by itself and you get Radiant on Solar with Ember of Torches, you'll go from 10 to 15. So both individually are a 50% bonus to your duration. However, if you are on Solar using Ember of Solace and you use this set on top of that, you will get a 70% increased duration instead of another 50%. So being like 200%, right? You will have a 1.7x duration. So you'll get 17 seconds out of Radiant instead of the 20 you would expect or the 15 you would have with just one. This is the same thing for your Sever, your Unravel, your Suspend. They're all 50% longer, which is about the same as the Thread of Continuity, which will go up to 70% if you have both. So if you are building into just one of these are still nothing to scoff at, right? 15 seconds to 17 seconds. Being able to take a 10-second duration to a 15-second duration without using a fragment could save you some space. Or if you are using it, you can double up and get up to 17 just to get you a little bit more headway, is still very, very strong. However, on Prismatic, where you have no way to extend these debuffs and buffs in-house, this is an even stronger thing, I think, because you get that 50% as if you were on the subclass on your Prismatic. Think, for example, if you are using Facet of Purpose and you're on Solar and you get Restoration on Orb Pickup, right now you're getting 5 seconds, which is not a lot. And it's pretty short compared to what Restoration would be on Solar. But you can now increase that to 7.5 seconds of Restoration. And you can increase your Radiant from Dawn from the 5 seconds we've been getting used to, which I feel has been too short, to 7.5 seconds, which is still pretty short, but that's a lot more usable than 5 seconds. As well as giving you increased duration to your strand debuffs. And this doesn't work for everybody, right? Hunter gets Unravel and Sever, Warlocks get Unravel, and Titans get Suspend and Sever. So I think on Titan, this will be very interesting because they're the only ones that have access to Suspend naturally in their toolkit. So you can use this set to increase the duration of your Shackle Grenade or your Prismatic Grenade Suspends. You can get increased duration on Sever for both of them with your melee, or if you're using Thread of Isolation, that will also increase the duration of that. And Unravel pretty much reprocs itself all the time, so it's really unnoticeable on Unravel. But having an increased duration on Suspend, Radiant, and Restoration is very big for Prismatic builds. And I think this set might be your default if you're running Prismatic. And that's it. That is all our armor sets for this expansion. I hope to see a couple more if we get another event or two in the time frame before the September thing comes out. But Ash and Iron, I think, is going to have a couple more sets. We're going to see dungeon encounters enter the portal, and whether they go under Pinnacle and get Bushido or they start getting their own sets, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the new dungeon coming in the next expansion in December is going to get its own armor set. But I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with the 8 armor sets per expansion. We're probably going to see something like 4, I would assume, which I don't think is a bad number. As long as we get 1 or 2 as well with the mid-season update, then we'll have a decent pace of getting new sets. And I would like to see a couple more interesting things like the raid set. Like the raid set seems pretty good. Techsec's very good. And then like the ones from the destination are okay. Crucible's fine, and Crucible, I think you could probably get some better effects with just double doubles. But I think keeping an eye on those and being able to mix and match that is a very important part of playing the game. And these are things that you're going to want to start building into. I do think the best thing you could build into right now feels like Techsec and then the raid one. And then whatever else. I think Aeon Adapter is actually pretty good. We are in a place where we're using a lot of rocket pulses. We're using rocket sidearms. So definitely still something to consider picking up and farming a set for. You are going to be trying to play on Mythic difficulty. So harder to get the adapter suit, but I think it's well worth the grind for that. That's going to be it for today, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you all again very, very soon.